Okay, let me ask you this. What's the absolute first thing you say to yourself when you wake up?
Good question. Probably involves coffee.
Aha! Right. Is it like a mental to-do list starting already? Maybe just a groan about the alarm?
Yeah, or maybe, just maybe, something a bit more Pooh-like.
Exactly, as in Winnie the Pooh. Remember when Piglet asked Pooh that exact question? Pooh's answer was just brilliant, pure Pooh.
Was for breakfast, wasn't it?
Yep. And Piglet, ever the thinker, said, I wonder what's going to happen exciting today.
And Pooh's reply.
Oh, it's classic.
It's the same thing. Just like that. Simple, but wow, there's something in that, isn't there?
There really is. It's remarkable how that little exchange, so innocent on the surface, holds such depth, a kind of quiet wisdom.
The kind we tend to miss, right? Caught up in all the noise and rush.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going deep into Benjamin Hoff's fantastic book, The Tao of Pooh.
And let's be clear, this isn't just about a cute bear who loves honey. No, not at all. It's really about understanding some pretty profound ancient Taoist ideas, but through this incredibly accessible and, frankly, delightful lens.
Right. Our mission here is to unpack how these big ideas, happiness, fulfillment, living in harmony, can actually be found right there in the 100-acre wood.
And more importantly, how you can take these lessons, these sort of practical nuggets, and apply them directly to your own life.
Make things feel a bit easier, maybe more interesting, more entertaining even.
Definitely. It's about getting to the core of a philosophy that genuinely helps you live better. We want clarity, usefulness, and hopefully a few of those aha moments along the way.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Benjamin Hoff, the author, he didn't just pluck this idea out of thin air, did he?
No, he actually started with a specific goal. He wanted to show that, real wisdom isn't just an Eastern thing.
Right. He had that friend, the unbeliever.
Exactly. This friend was totally convinced all the great masters had to be from the East. So Hoff throws out that Pooh and Piglet quote we just talked about.
Calling it wisdom from a Western Taoist. Cheeky.
Very. And the friend immediately says, that sounds like Winnie the Pooh, which, of course, it was.
But then the real skepticism came from the academics.
Oh, yeah? The scholars. They apparently thought the whole idea was, what was the word? Preposterous.
Or even the stupidest thing they'd ever heard. Imagine. They couldn't see how you could possibly explain something like Taoism using a children's bear.
Talk about missing the point. It's like they were proving Hoff's point for him.
How so?
Well, that very resistance, that sort of academic snobbery, it highlights a key Taoist idea itself.
Which is?
That we often think wisdom has to be complicated. It has to be dense, wrapped up in jargon, maybe even a bit painful to acquire.
Like you need a PhD to understand how to be happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Taoism, especially through Pooh, suggests the opposite. It says, hey, maybe the profound truth is actually quite simple. Maybe it's right here in the everyday if we just learn how to look.
Okay, so to really get this, let's use that famous analogy Hoff brings up early on. The vinegar tasters.
Ah, yes. A brilliant way to understand the different philosophical flavors, so to speak.
So imagine unrolling this ancient Chinese scroll. There's a painting.
And you see these three wise-looking men standing around a big vat of vinegar. Each one's dipped a finger in, tasted it.
And the vinegar itself represents life, the essence of life.
Precisely. And the three men, they stand for the three teachings of China. You've got Confucius, Buddha, and Lao Tzu, the father of Taoism.
Okay, first up is Confucius. What's his reaction?
He looks sour. Like really puckering up.
Why sour?
Because for Confucius, life in the present felt, well, wrong. Out of sync with the past, with the ancestors, with the proper way of heaven.
So he thought things were kind of messed up and needed fixing?
Exactly. His solution was all about structure, rules, rituals, reverence for the past, prescribed actions for everything. The book uses that great detail.
Oh, the one about the mat.
Yeah. If the mat was not straight, the master would not sit. It shows that that rigid adherence to external correctness. Everything had to be just so.
So connecting that to us, how does that kind of rigidity, that constant focus on how things should be based on some ideal, make our lives feel sour?
It's a great question for reflection, isn't it? Are you always measuring the present against some perfect standard, maybe from the past, or just your own idea of perfection?
And does that striving just suck the joy out of the moment because it's never quite right?
Exactly. That's the sourness.
Okay, who's next? Buddha.
Right. And Buddha's expression, it's bitter.
Bitter. Why bitter?
Because from his perspective, life on earth was fundamentally filled with suffering. It was inescapable.
Caused by desire, attachments.
Yes, those things inevitably lead to pain, dissatisfaction. He saw the world as a kind of trap, a revolving wheel of pain.
So the goal was to get off the wheel.
To transcend it, to escape the world of dust, detach from earthly desires, and reach nirvana, that state of no wind, ultimate peace beyond suffering.
So for us listening, the question becomes, do we sometimes see life as inherently bitter? Like it's just a series of traps or disappointments?
Are we caught up in wanting things we don't have, or wishing reality was different, to the point where we just want to check out, to escape?
It's about noticing if that bitter lens is coloring our whole experience.
Definitely. Which leads us to the third man.
Lao Tzu. And
He's smiling. A gentle, knowing smile.
Okay, so why the smile? What's the Taoist take?
Lao Tzu saw things differently. He believed harmony wasn't something lost that needed recreating through rules, like Confucius thought. Nor was life something to escape, like Buddha suggested.
He thought harmony was just there, naturally.
Exactly. Right from the start, between heaven and earth.
Yeah.
The problem wasn't life itself. The problem was human interference.
So the more we meddle, the more we try to force things.
The further away that natural harmony retreats, trying to impose our will just creates friction, discord, unhappiness.
So the world isn't a trap, it's a teacher.
Precisely. A teacher of valuable lessons. Instead of running from the dust of the world, Lao Tzu said, join the dust, embrace it, participate fully.
And the smile comes from that, from understanding and working with life as it is.
Yes. Utilizing everything, even the stuff that seems negative, turning it into something positive, accepting reality and flowing with it.
Happiness and serenity are just the natural outcome of living that way.
That's the Taoist view. It's not something you chase. It's something that arises when you stop fighting the natural flow.
Okay, so thinking about my own life, what things that I see as negative right now could I maybe utilize, work with instead of against?
Where are you pushing, resisting, making things feel sour or bitter, when maybe acceptance and a different approach could lead to that Lao Tzu smile?
It's a powerful reframe, and it brings us, quite perfectly, to Pooh.
It really does. Because if Taoism is about this natural harmony, this simplicity, then Pooh is its perfect, if unexpected, embodiment.
He is the living example of Pooh, the uncarved block.
Pooh. It's pronounced sort of like Pooh, but maybe a bit shorter, like Puh.
And it means natural, simple.
Natural, simple, plain, honest. The actual Chinese characters are quite cool. They show a tree in a dense thicket. Wood that hasn't been cut or shaped.
So the idea is that things in their original state have their own power.
Exactly. Their own natural power. And that power gets lost or spoiled when we mess with that simplicity, when we try to change it too much.
And that applies to people too, like when we try too hard to be something we're not.
Absolutely. We lose our own uncarved nature. And it definitely applies to bears.
Pooh is the uncarved block, isn't he? It's not that he's dumb, he's just simple-minded in the best possible way.
And that's his strength. He accomplishes things because he's simple-minded, not in spite of it. While others are tangled up in cleverness, Pooh just is.
He has that still, calm, reflecting mirror mind the Taoists talk about.
Right. His mind isn't cluttered with trying to be smart or worrying or analyzing everything to death. It's clear, open.
Which allows him to see things others miss. He responds directly, intuitively.
It's a different kind of intelligence. Not book smarts, but life smarts.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom, really. The kind that comes from stillness, not frantic thinking.
And the contrast with the other characters is so clear. Rabbit, for example.
Rabbit. He's all about knowledge for cleverness. Remember when they were lost in the mist?
Oh, yeah. Rabbit, Mr. Brain, just keeps leading them back to the same sand pit. He's trying so hard to figure it out, to be clever.
And completely fails. Because he's ignoring the simple reality, the intuition.
Or as Pooh has that brilliant, counterintuitive idea, let's look for the pit so we don't find it.
And how does he find his way home eventually? By listening to his honeypots. He couldn't hear them before because Rabbit was talking too much.
It perfectly illustrates Pooh's amazing line. Rabbit's clever, and he has brain. I suppose that's why he never understands anything.
Burns. But it's true, isn't it? Rabbit's cleverness often blinds him. He overthinks, tries to control, and misses the simple path.
Then you have Owl.
Owl. The classic knowledge for appearing wise type. The Confucianist desiccated scholar.
Learning just to look smart, not for actual understanding or use.
Totally. His spelling is hilarious but telling. Tuesday, because it's the second day. Then Thursday.
Or crust a money proceed cake instead of just saying the right thing to do.
It shows how making things overly complex, using jargon, can just obscure the simple truth. It sounds important, but it's just confusing.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often do we do that? Over-intellectualized.
Try to find a complex solution when a simple one is right there. We get so caught up in thinking about things we forget to just see them.
Or we talk to animals, process data, but don't actually listen to our intuition or the situation itself.
Chuang Tzu had that great analogy for Owl's problem.
The frog in the well.
Yeah. A well frog cannot imagine the ocean. How then can a scholar understand the Tao? He is restricted by his own learning.
Your knowledge becomes a cage, limiting your view.
Exactly. You're so full of facts, there's no room for simple wisdom.
And then there's Eeyore's, poor or.
Eeyore. He represents knowledge for complaining, using what little he thinks he knows to justify his gloom.
Like arranging 3 sticks and calling it A for learning just to point out what Pooh and Piglet haven't got.
Pathetic, that's what it is. Classic Eeyore. His negativity, his focus on lack, just paralyzes him.
The book says the Eeyore attitude prevents any sort of real accomplishment. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of misery.
So for you listening, how does your own negative self-talk, even if you think it's just being realistic, hold you back?
How does focusing on why things won't work stop you from even trying?
It's a trap. So how do we get out of these traps? The book offers the Coddleston Pie principle.
Named after another one of Pooh's wonderfully simple songs, the core message.
Things are as they are. Accept reality. Understand your own nature and the nature of things around you and work with it.
A fly can't bird, but a bird can fly. Seems obvious, but
we fight it all the time. We try to make flies into birds. We push square pegs into round holes.
like Trunks' story about the useless tree.
Right. Useless for lumber because it's gnarled. But Chuang Tzu points out it's incredibly useful for shade, for beauty, for just being a tree.
It's only useless if you judge it against the wrong standard.
So how can you appreciate your own useless qualities, the things that don't fit the standard definition of success?
Where do you truly belong, even if it looks muddy, like Trongsi preferring the simple life? Finding value in your authentic self.
Then there's the next line. A fish can't whistle and neither can I.
Knowing your limitations, which sounds negative, but it's actually a strength.
Absolutely. Look at Tigger. He thinks tigers can do everything. Fly, climb, swim.
And he's always getting into trouble, stuck in trees, falling in rivers. He doesn't accept his ticker nature.
He might say he's learned his lesson, but then he bounces right back into trying something he's not built for.
It reminds me of that Chinese medicine saying you mentioned.
One disease, long life. No disease, short life.
If you know your weakness, your limitation, you adapt. You take care.
You work with it, not against it. Like Piglet. Exactly. Piglet, the very small animal. When Owl's house blows down, his smallness is what saves them. He can fit through the letter slot.
His limitation becomes his unique strength. He uses what he is.
So what are your smallnesses? Your perceived limits that might actually be strengths in disguise if you work with them?
Introversion, quietness, attention to detail. How can you leverage who you are?
And the final line of the song, why does a chicken? I don't know why.
Trusting inner nature, not needing to analyze everything to death.
Right. We don't need scientists dissecting why a chicken is a chicken. It just is. We need to recognize inner nature in ourselves and the world and work with things as they are.
Like the heffalump trap. Pooh uses honey because he likes honey.
Ignores the heffalump's nature entirely. And what does he catch?
Himself, because he projected his own nature onto the situation, didn't respect things as they are.
So the big takeaway from Coddleston Pie is self-reliance based on self-awareness.
How can you get very far if you don't know who you are? How can you do what you ought if you don't know what you've got?
It's the foundation. Knowing yourself, knowing your resources, knowing what works for you.
Which leads perfectly into the next big idea, how to act based on that knowledge. Effortless action. The Pooh way.
Wu way. It sounds passive, without doing, but it's not really about doing nothing.
It's more about how you do things, right? Without struggle, without forcing it.
Exactly. Without meddlesome, combative, or egotistical effort. No going against the grain, no clever manipulation, no monkeying around.
Like water flowing around rocks. Efficient, natural, sensitive to the path.
It comes from an inner sensitivity to the natural rhythm of things.
Like that amazing story of the old man and the waterfall.
Oh, Chuang Tzu again. This guy gets tossed around in a deadly waterfall, but just pops out unharmed, singing.
And when Confucius asks how he did it, what's his secret?
No secret power. He just says, I go down with the water and come up with the water. I survive because I don't struggle against the water's superior power. He yields, he flows.
So for us, where are we struggling against the current in our own lives? Exhausting ourselves fighting?
How could we yield a bit more, flow with it, use minimal effort by aligning with the situation instead of resisting?
Pooh does this naturally. He says he doesn't do much of anything.
Things just sort of happen. Which sounds like that line from the Tao Te Ching.
Tao does not do, but nothing is not done. It lets things unfold naturally. Wei Wu Wei leads to Suyan things happening spontaneously.
Like in Pooh Sticks. When Eeyore is stuck in the river.
Everyone else is panicking or making complicated plans. Rabbit's trying to take command.
And Pooh just quietly suggests dropping a stone to make waves. Simple physics, working with the water.
And it works. The mind that follows the nature of things gets results, not the clever mind forcing it.
Or opening the stuck jar lid.
Yeah.
Tigger uses brute force and fails spectacularly.
Pooh uses that simple technique. Twist, breathe deep, twist on the exhale, effortless.
Because a tense mind creates awkwardness. I think, therefore I am confused. Animals just are.
Wu Wei also implies fewer real accidents, just things getting a little odd, but working out if you let them.
You have to be sensitive to circumstances. Like the search for Small the beetle.
Rabbit organizes this whole elaborate search party. Pooh just wanders along and bumps into him.
He wasn't trying so hard, so he was open to finding him.
Or Eeyore's birthday. The eaten honey, the burst balloon looks like a disaster.
But the empty pot becomes a useful pot for the burst balloon. It all works out because they adapted, they were sensitive to what was, not what should have been.
So can we practice being more sensitive to circumstances? Letting decisions emerge naturally sometimes, instead of forcing every outcome?
It's the Pooh way. Less effort, often better results, and definitely more enjoyable.
Beyond Wu Wei, there's another key principle, too, compassion.
Yes. Lao Tzu called it his first treasure, and he said, from caring comes courage. We could add, from caring comes wisdom, too.
Because a clever mind is not a heart. Knowledge doesn't really care. Wisdom does. Knowledge is cold. Wisdom is connected through caring.
Think about the rescues in the stories. When Roo falls in the stream during the North Pole expedition.
Everyone's flapping, giving bad advice. Pooh just sees a pole nearby and uses it. Simple, direct action, born from caring.
He saw what was needed, because he cared about Roo, not about looking smart or being in charge. The answer was right there.
And Piglet, our very small animal finding immense courage.
When Owl's house collapses, trapping Owl and Pooh, Piglet is terrified. But his compassion, his chew for his friends, overcomes his fear.
He squeezes through the letter slot, using his smallness again to get help. His heart gave him courage.
So how can you tap into your own caring, your two? How can focusing on others or just deeply caring about something give you strength and insight you didn't know you had?
It's a powerful internal resource we often forget about.
Okay, so we've looked at inner clarity with the uncarved block, effortless action with Wu Wei, and the power of compassion with Tu. Now, what gets in the way?
The modern condition. The busy Baxen.
That great name from Christopher Robin's note, gun out Baxen, busy Baxen. Rabbit was definitely one.
Always rushing, always planning, never still. The book compares this to Chuangxi's story of the man running from his shadow.
Such a profound image. The man hates his footprints in shadow, so he runs to escape them.
But the faster he runs, the more footprints he makes, and the shadow keeps up.
He runs himself to death, literally. When all he needed to do was stand still or rest in the shade, he was fighting an inescapable part of reality.
That's the busy Baxen, always going somewhere, anywhere but where he is, chasing the great reward that's always just out of reach.
They confuse frantic activity with productivity. Even play becomes work. Hard surfaces, constant motion.
And the book traces this back to a kind of miserable Puritan mindset, always fighting nature, never relaxing.
Yeah, this idea that life is about struggle, overcoming, conquering, not flowing, not harmonizing. It leads to restlessness, never feeling at home.
Like forcing the land until you get cardboard-tasting apples. Quantity over quality, effort over enjoyment.
Which leads directly to the saving time obsession.
The hamburger stand mentality. You don't count, hurry up. Versus the tea house. You're important, relax.
And the irony of all our time-saving tech. We should have loads of free time, right?
Oh, but we feel busier than ever. Working harder to pay for things to save time so we don't have to work so hard. It's madness.
Because, as the book says, you can't save time. You can only spend it. Wisely or foolishly. The busy Baxen wastes it, by trying to save it.
So what's the antidote to being a busy Baxon?
Inner quiet, that's the secret. Like Li Cheng-yun, the Taoist immortal who lived to 256.
His advice, sit like a turtle, walk like a pigeon, sleep like a dog. But the main thing.
Inner quiet, finding stillness within the activity of life.
So the challenge for us is, how do we cultivate moments of that inner quiet in our busy lives, even small moments, stepping off the hamster wheel?
Which brings us beautifully to the wisdom of nothing. Tai Tzu, the great nothing.
Christopher Robin knew about this. His idea of doing nothing wasn't laziness, it was
just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear and not bothering. Pure presence.
like the Yellow Emperor losing the Pearl of Tao. Knowledge couldn't find it. Vision couldn't. Eloquence couldn't.
Only empty mind came back with it. Found through receptivity, not cleverness.
Just like Pooh finding Eeyore's tail. Rabbit missed it. Owl used it as a bell rope without recognizing it.
But Pooh, with his empty sort of mind, just saw what was there. An empty mind sees. An overstuffed mind is blind to the obvious.
Like music needing the space between the notes. Emptiness allows clarity.
Clean air, open landscapes, they refresh us because of that emptiness, but we often fear it.
We fill every gap. Schedules, spaces, thoughts, trying to avoid loneliness.
But that just makes the loneliness worse. True fullness comes when we discard the big congested mess and embrace the fullness of nothing.
Like Emperor Hirohito enjoying that unexpected empty hour in his schedule more than anything else.
The unscheduled space was the real treasure.
Lao Tzu said, to attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day.
That's Tai Tzu, emptying the clue. Like Yen Hui, forgetting rules, rituals, even himself, to finally join the source in nothing.
So how can we remove things every day? Mental noise, useless worries, abstract clutter, to make space for wisdom.
Where do our best ideas really come from? Usually those quiet moments after sleep when the mind is clear and filled with nothing.
The goal is to become like the independent, clear-minded, all-seeing child. Not childish, but regaining that pure perception.
Return to the beginning. Empty the mind of small learning to make room for the great nothing.
And this state, this enchanted place like Galleon's lap in the books, it isn't far away.
No, just take the path to nothing and go nowhere until you reach it. It's right where you are. You just need to be friendly with bears, open to that simple wisdom.
Wow. So we've really journeyed through the 100-acre wood today, haven't we?
We have, from the uncarved block and Coddleston pie, knowing ourselves and reality.
To Wu Wei, effortless action, and Xiu, the power of caring.
And recognizing the trap of the busy Baxon so we can embrace the wisdom of the great nothing.
The book says we all have an owl, a rabbit, an Eeyore, and a Pooh inside us.
And maybe we've spent too long being owl and rabbit, and then complaining like Eeyore.
So the choice is clear. If we want wisdom, happiness. If we are smart, we will choose the way of Pooh.
Which Pooh himself summed up so perfectly in that final song.
Can you share that? It feels like the perfect wrap-up.
To know the way, we go the way. We do the way we do the things we do. It's all there in front of you. But if you try too hard to see it, you'll only become confused. I am me and you are you, as you can see. But when you do the things that you can do, you will find the way, and the way will follow you.
Just brilliant. So simple, so direct. It tells us the reward isn't at the end of the chase.
No, it's in the process. Like who realizing the moment before eating the honey is almost better. It's the awareness, the enjoyment itself.
Enjoyment of the process is the secret that erases the myths of the great reward and saving time.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. What process, right now in your life, can you choose to fully embrace and enjoy, just as it is, on your own terms?
How can you bring a little more of that sort of bear into your day? Trust your nature, act effortlessly, find that fullness in the quiet moments.
It's all right there, just waiting.